Good morning and welcome. I'm calling this meeting of the Central Valley Flood Protection Board of Friday, April 26th to order. My name is Jane Dolan. I'm the president of this board, and I'm honored to serve with these amazing people, staff and board members. So welcome to the board members who were able to come today. You will see that we have a somewhat truncated board because we have two who had other obligations and are not here, and we have a vacancy. So we four are the board today, and we four are the quorum. We'll get to that in a minute. So everyone who wants to be logged on has been admitted. Thumbs up. Thank you for that. Welcome to our in-house audience and those online. And you heard the announcement that the meeting is recorded. So the meeting's been called to order. So now we will establish our quorum, even though I already said that, but we'll do it officially with our clerk, Jonah Knapp, calling the roll.
Member Bosler is absent. Member Countryman is absent. Member Griego. Secretary Johnson.
I'm here. Good morning, everyone.
Vice President Valines. President Dolan.
I'm here. So now I will officially say we do have a quorum of four. Two are absent and there is one vacancy. Next, I'm going to proceed to announcements and understand that we do have some. So I'll call on our executive officer, Chris Leaf.
Thank you, President Dolan. Yes, I have 3 welcomes and an announcement today. So first, we'd like to welcome Julie Cager as the staff service analyst responsible for procurement activities, as well as training and conference coordination. Julie has great experience for this role, joining us following 10 years of administrative experience with the Elk Grove School District.
And she's standing so we can see our nameplates. Okay, now you can say her amazing background.
And as a legal process specialist at Wells Fargo. She hails from Rancho Murrieta, where she lives with her husband and youngest son and their myriad pets. We got to talk about pets.
Welcome.
Welcome. Next, we welcome
The
Israel.
next time you're here, you have to talk.
We welcome Israel Tamiro. I hope I got that right, or close at least. To the Sacramento levy section. Israel joins us after working as a facility manager at the state of Washington's Department of Ecology, where he focused on permits for wastewater treatment. Israel has also worked for the City of Los Angeles Department of Public Works Bureau of Engineering and the City of Sacramento Department of Utilities, where he served as a project manager for the city's interior drainage and the Tahomas interior levee certification projects. He has worked with Safeca and USAIS on their levee projects in the greater Sacramento region. Later, he became a drainage review engineer for development projects occurring throughout the city. Israel holds a bachelor's degree in chemical and environmental engineering from UC Riverside and has his engineering and training certificate. Currently, he is working towards obtaining his PE license. Welcome, Israel.
And Mr. Camilo is standing, so welcome. You're hard to miss.
Our last welcome is Ryan McGeehee to the inspection section. Ryan earned his undergraduate degree in civil engineering from Loyola Marymount University and a Master of Science in Civil Engineering from UC Davis. He also brings several years of engineering experience from working at a bridge construction company and a civil engineering consulting company. Ryan is also working towards obtaining his PE license. Welcome, Ryan.
You also get the prize for the most distinguished attire today. Our chief engineer kind of ties, but thank you for that. Welcome. Welcome to you three. This is great news.
Moving on to announcements, if I may.
Yes, please.
I'm very pleased to announce that Andrea Buckley has been selected to be the new Deputy Executive Officer overseeing the board's land management branch, environmental services, and flood planning programs. Andrea has been with the board for 14 years, managing the Environmental and Land Management Division for the past 8 years. Andrea has been instrumental to the growth and elevation of the board's programs from both the regulatory and planning perspective. Prior to joining state service in 2010, Andrea held an environmental consultant position at ICF International and has more than 20 years of experience with environmental issues in the California Central Valley. Andrea earned her Bachelor of Science degree in Physical Geography and Soil Science from the University of Kansas. Welcome, Andrea.
20 years, so you started when you were 14. We're delighted. It's, we don't say welcome because we know you, but yes,
Welcome to the new role.
yes, no, this is great. We're delighted to be able to have that position. We're delighted that you are filling it. Thank you very much.
That concludes announcements.
No more announcements? Anyone else want to make any kind of announcement? All right. We'll proceed to my brief review of the agenda. We will be, after I do my little speech here, we'll approve minutes of our last meeting. The next is what we call consent items, which is something that's done just with one vote, no discussion unless someone wants to talk about it, and there's just one item. Item 6, after that, item 6 is a spot called public comments. This is for comments that are within the matter of our jurisdiction but are not on our agenda. And then item 7 is the submittal of a legislative update assembled by our executive officer. We normally just note that, but sometimes he highlights something, so we'll see. Item 8 is an informational presentation of a levy inspection. Number 9 is identified as board items, and that is comprised of 3, or was comprised of 3. It is now 2. Item 9B, B as in Bob, is postponed and will not be heard today. The 2, did I get that right? 9A, and I typed it as B. 9A. Can we correct that recording? Item 9A is postponed. The remaining 2 are action. One is to approve an amended assurance agreement. Good. You'll probably be happy I'm losing my voice. And the other is to confirm board member assignments. Item 10 are those items before the board from the Department of Water Resources, and there are 3. We note the receipt of a monthly informational report, which is we like to receive and appreciate that. And we will be hearing an update of the development of the 2027 Central Valley Flood Protection Plan and a presentation of that. And we will be asked to take action on approving the Department of Water Resources maintenance area budgets for fiscal year 24-25. Item 11, we acknowledge reports submitted by board members within their reports submitted for board members. That's from our board staff. I need to do this better, sorry. 12 is for the board to comment on activities, community updates. Item 13 is reminding ourselves of meetings and their locations. 14 would be a closed session, but with this short board, we're not going to be holding one. We had hoped to, and then we'll adjourn. It's a challenge to predict how long this meeting will go, but I'm thinking that we will end before we would take a lunch break, but we'll see. If I feel that it would be appropriate to call a lunch or call a break at some point, I will, but I don't know that that will occur. So we will proceed. Questions, board members? None. Okay. The next item is approving the minutes. Secretary Johnson.
Thank you, President Dolan. This item is for approval of the March 22nd board meeting minutes. I've reviewed them and I believe they're in order, and I move that they be approved.
Thank you for your work. I like what you do. I was secretary, so he does a better job. We have a motion by Secretary Johnson and a second by Member Grego. Anybody want to talk about them? Board? Audience? Please call the roll.
Member Bosler is absent. Member Countryman is absent. Member Griego. Secretary Johnson.
Aye.
Vice President Belines. President Dolan.
Aye. Okay, that motion carries exactly the number of votes that need to be taken to approve. So the minutes are approved. For 4 votes to approve, 2 absent, 1 vacancy. Now we move to the consent item. It's one item, is to approve fiscal year 2022-23 amendment to the subventions program for the Delta levy maintenance. Sandra Maxwell has provided to us a written report on this. It's an amendment to increase the value, increase the number. So it's good. Does anybody want to remove it or talk about it? Board, audience, hands up? Nope. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent item? Motion by Member Griego. Second by Member Johnson. We usually have Countryman Griego, so we've got to be like alert. Okay, please call the roll.
Member Bosler is absent. Member Countryman is absent. Member Griego,
Yes.
Secretary Johnson.
Aye.
Vice President Belines. President Dolan.
Yes. As you can hear, that motion was carried. The consent item is approved. 4 voted yes, 2 are absent, 1 vacancy. Now we're at an item that's called public comment. This is an item where anyone can express a comment, wish to come forward. It needs to be within our jurisdiction and not on the agenda, and there will be a time limit imposed. Does anyone wish to come forward? I have a stack. I have a stack. All right. For those of you who filled out a card, thank you for pointing that out. I usually just look to see if someone's standing. So I will call them in the order they were handed to me. Nancy Nurston. I probably said that wrong. Niskern. I got it right the second time. Good morning. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Thank you.
We all make mistakes. I'm new at this, which is advocacy for something I believe in. I was sharing my worry about making mistakes while trying to achieve something I believe in, and I was told mistakes. You just gotta get used to it. I'm sorry, can you closer?
I think we heard that, but to have it on the record,
Okay.
speak closer.
We all make mistakes. I'm new at this. Advocacy for something I believe in. I was sharing my worry about making mistakes while trying to achieve something. And I was told mistakes, you just got to get used to making them. Whenever people build things, they can make mistakes, but the original design ought to be the best it can be given time and cost restraints. I believe the Corps of Engineers is making a big mistake on the contract 3B portion of the American River Common Features project. The removal of over 600 trees, all vegetation, and replacing this rich, fertile ground with layers of rock, substrate, and a covering of 2 to 3 feet of soil will build a heat island, an unfriendly place for man or animals. This smooth, hard finish is designed to make the large volume of high-velocity water go downriver to the urban area. This water has to go somewhere when we flood, and it will join the rising waters at the confluence of the 2 rivers, our main urban center. The current riverbanks can absorb water, as do the trees and their extensive root systems. The roots provide hardy structures for the soil, and all the vegetation provide food and shelter for animals. All of this growth provide a noise and a wind barrier and shade for the fish, their needed cool water. And for us, especially those of us that do not have a backyard swimming pool. We believe we can be safe and targeted and have targeted solutions for those areas of our river that are at risk for erosion. We want to support the Corps devising better, less costly solutions that are more appropriate and safe for this natural area. This is the only wild and scenic river designated by state and federal government running through a metropolitan area. I'm not alone here. The letter from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency recommended in November 2022. The EPA recommends that the Corps explore and objectively consider a full range of alternatives. and evaluate in detail all reasonable alternatives that fulfill the project's purpose, need, and regulatory requirements. In regards to climate change, we are equally able to get long droughts as well as rising rivers. The Corps tells me not to worry. The riverbank will come back in 10 years. This is not soothing to my ears. There will no longer be the large heritage oaks, the pathways to the river's edge, the animals, large and small, that rely on this area for food and shelter. We will look at this finished project as a big mistake. Like me, the Corps can make mistakes. A recent article in ProPublica points out 9 times the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers miscalculated badly at the expense of taxpayers and wildlife. This was published in November 2023. One story addresses the 13 dams on the Willamette River that has helped drive the salmon population to extinction.
Are you close to ending?
I can be.
Okay. If you want to leave that with us, that would be appropriate as
Oh,
well.
it's a mess, though.
Oh, well,
The Corps has provided us with good projects on the floodplains of Sacramento, and we appreciate them to the extent that we don't even think about them when we walk along the river. But we do appreciate the natural environment and want to keep it that way. I need help in understanding what Representative Matsui said yesterday. I need help in understanding what they mean by these projects are all designed to reduce the flood risks around Sacramento while also protecting the natural environment. I need to stress we need to protect the natural environment. Thank you very much.
thank you.
If you want this, or I can email it.
Email would be good. Brenda Guston? Ms. Guston? Oh, you were hiding behind staff. Good morning.
Hi. So, good morning. Thank you, President Dolan, for your meaningful and sincere introductory remarks at the meeting hosted by Congressman Ami Bera on April 8th, relative to the American River Common Features Project. Thank you all for listening and reading the extensive amount of comments and for any part you may have played in scheduling the Bank Protection Working Group meeting coming up on April 30th. I understand this will be held online. We sincerely request it be held both in person and online to facilitate true dialogue within the working group and all present. This will expedite the conversation and hopefully bring greater clarity to this project. Thank you also for allowing Pete Spalding to share my public comment at your last workshop when I was turned south on Highway 50 to 99 to be with my dad in the ER. That was really kind of you. My dad's okay.
Thank you.
Sure. As you know, questions and concerns posed to date remain unanswered, and having the Corps consistently present is not the definition of engagement. To engage with someone is defined as involving them to participate and establish meaningful contact or connection. Fortunately, the citizens interested and deeply invested in creating a better way to protect Sacramento from the damage of flooding incidents while preserving the wild and scenic American River are professional, very patient, and persistent. Our invitation to meet with Colonel Caldwell remains in place with no response yet after 5 weeks. I hope we receive an affirmative answer and witness his accomplishment of the Corps' goal to communicate as soon as possible. It is reassuring to hear Director Liz Bellis call for a stop to the proposed work, pending more review and public engagement, thereby fulfilling one of the Sacramento County Parks' duties to manage and oversee the wild and scenic American River and its parkway. As we broaden our scope of knowledge with the Corps Engineering with Nature program and add more data, we are increasing our abilities to engage as stakeholders, partners, and multidisciplinary team members. We have a lot to offer. Therefore, we continue to respectfully request that a workshop be held by this board prior to the hearing Chris Leaf has advised will occur. Thank you very much for your due diligence to this matter. I know you're working on it. I always learn from these meetings and wish I could stay longer today. but I do have some personal matters to attend to. But thank you all for your work.
Oh,
Bye.
take care of your dad. Thank you. Mr. Spalding. That's Peter.
Thank you, President
morning.
Dolan, board members. Thanks again for 2 minutes of your time to talk about the Lower American River Common Features Project and Erosion Control Project. My wife is starting to refer to these comments as my 2-minute drills. I hope I'm not still preparing them in September when football season returns. I hope you read the California Forum in recent editions in the Sacramento Bee. It appeared 3 times, both in the digital version as well as in the print version. I want to read a quote from the middle of the article. Where the project is lacking is in comprehensive outreach. The Corps hasn't talked to concerned neighbors, nor can the Corps say how many large heritage oaks will be removed. The Army's draft environmental document detailing these projects, while technically in English, satisfies narrow legal requirements, but is far from digestible public information. The analysis, and this is a separate quote, is organized and presented in such a way that it is nearly impossible for all but the most experienced reviewers to navigate and understand. And that was written by Sacramento County Parks Director Liz Bellis, who is calling for a stop to the proposed work east of Howe Avenue, pending more review and public engagement. I think you recall when Colonel Caldwell was here on February 9th for the partnership and funding workshop. He showed a slide, and the title of the slide was Effective Engagement and Advocacy, Effective Engagement and Advocacy. The 2 bullets on that slide were communicate, communicate, and communicate as soon as possible. The other bullet was state and/or local alignment. The communication is not happening, as Brenda just mentioned. And the other thing is this project's not aligning with state and Governor Newsom's nature-based solutions across California through Executive Order N82-20, which establishes a state goal of conserving 30% of California's lands and coastal waters by 2030. And this is also known as the 30 by 30 project. Again, we still think all of us that have been coming to speak live within about a 1/4 mile of the river. Nobody wants erosion control and flood protection more than we do. But we still believe that a data-driven, factual-based a community engagement project is going to allow us to have erosion control, flood protection, and retain a wild and scenic American river. Thanks for your time and all you do for Sacramento and the Central Valley, and have a good board meeting. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Gary Pearson. All right, sir. Okay. I'll do it this way. Okay, Jamie Eggers. Good morning.
Good morning. Hopefully you can hear me. My name's Jamie Eggers. I live in Modesto in the unincorporated area that's in Stanislaus County. I'm here today because I have a concern about an upcoming local land use decision, which, if approved, would collide head-on with flood protection. The project is called Riverwalk, and the project area within that specific plan is 1,000 acres. That 1,000 acres is entirely in a bowl, and it is bordered on the north side by the Stanislaus River. Prior to the construction of New Maloney's Dam, this area flooded regularly, so a non-project levee was constructed to reclaim it for ag use. It was built in the late 40s or early 50s.
Go.
The draft EIR for the project, however, provides no insight to the construction standards that were used on this 70-year-old levee. Was it constructed to only prevent ag land from flooding, or was it constructed to protect nearly 3,000 homes and numerous businesses, homes that are primarily intended for the aging population of people 55 years of age and older? The quote discussion of the levee in the EIR is merely a single paragraph that has been cut and pasted from the state plan of flood control that only generally describes facilities along the Stanislaus River. The EIR is also silent on the reclamation district for this area. It's number 2143. It's called Went Ranch. And whether the levee has been properly maintained, nor does the EIR even show a diagram showing where the levee is. The 2008 FEMA flood maps designate the majority of this project area as Zone X, meaning it's protected from the 1% annual flood chance hazard by a levee. These maps include the following warning. Quote, overtopping or failure of the levee is possible, which could result in destructive flood elevations and high velocity floodwaters. There is a chance that large floods will occur that are greater than the level of protection provided by the levee. Communities should issue evacuation plans and encourage property owners behind these structures to purchase flood insurance, even if the structure is currently shown as providing protection from the 1% chance. An evacuation area for this area would be challenged because they're only planning 3 ways in and out of this 1,000-acre project. I'd like to thank Ms. Bugsley's staff for their March 8th letter regarding this project and pointing out that it does fall within the board's permit authority, requiring an encroachment permit. I would like to encourage you to deny an encroachment permit for this project. And if board staff wish to make additional comments on the project, the comment deadline was just extended earlier this week to May 16th. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Pearson? Riverbank, California is where?
Great question. Riverbank is located about 3 miles northeast of Modesto, California. It sits along the Stanislaus River, and as such has been a river of significance for a long, long time, both as a source of water for agriculture and also for recreation. Riverbank has a substantial park along this stretch of the river that people visit all the time. In this particular case, what I'm speaking towards, and let me say, Gary Pearson, a resident of Riverbank, California. I've lived there for the last 2 years. I was a career employee at UC Davis, spent 37 years working in the College of Ag and Environmental Sciences. So I've worked with a bunch of world-class researchers with lots of different issues related to agriculture. So my whole time on this planet has been agriculture. And in this particular project, this 1,000 acres is currently zoned for ag. What the project is doing is going to take this out and plant houses. And common sense, when you examine this in a little more detail, is the proposed housing sits in this lower floodplain. It has a unique history. Over time, there has been numerous times. And you can go back and look at the actual records dating back to 1916. And this original site was a riparian area that was converted into agriculture. In numerous times in 1999, there was a flood that occurred in River Cove where there was a levee breach. Also, having walked the levee now numerous times, I note lots of significant levee protection, but also significant trees, also riparian areas, and in particular elderberry. And elderberry is native to our rivers and the Central Valley. And also, we also have a valley elderberry insect that occurs that is considered to be an endangered species. So I bring that to the table for your consideration. But having walked the levee, I am particularly concerned about flood protection in general. And if you're going to plant 2,200 homes, that levee will not survive a high amount of water. Even though you may have protection from New Melones and Tulloch, there can occur significant releases beyond that control. It's currently rated for about 8,000 cubic feet per second. However, knowing some of the tributaries that come in, you could hit 10,000 cubic feet per second. The levee that exists there now for this project would not survive 10,000 cubic feet because of how it was built, and also rodent damage, and also the other intrusions from the trees that are there. So thank you for your time, and look forward to hearing any further comments.
Thank you, sir. I'm happy to see someone else has the SBC Global email. People make fun of me. All right, I have no other cards that have been submitted, correct? Is there anyone else who wants to provide a public comment? I see no hands raised or stand up in the audience. Any hands up online? None? Okay, we'll proceed. Item number 7, legislative update. We've received a written report from our executive officer. Do you have any highlights you want to bring forward?
No highlights or comments.
Do you know when the May revised budget comes out?
The May revised comes out no later than May 14th.
Yeah, we have 2 people here who pay attention to that on a daily basis. Okay, well, that will, I'm not sure if we'll look forward to that, but it's on its way. Okay, any questions? Member Johnson?
I do.
Secretary Johnson?
Thank you. The legislative briefing mentions on the first page 2 Corps of Engineers documents that are under development that are one with the Corps and FEMA for National Levee Safety Guidelines released April 1st. And it says that the Corps also drafted best practices for vegetation management. And the comments are due July 31st. And I have a couple of questions, just, and I'd welcome more information about both of these, but is that comment deadline for the 2 things together, or are those separate things that just happen to be in the same paragraph?
They're together.
Okay. So companion documents with comments due in July. Okay. If you'd like to say anything, more about them now, I'd welcome that. But otherwise, I can take offline, just maybe getting a little more information about what's going on with those 2 things.
Okay, we'll follow up.
I read that as well, and I assumed, I'm going to say rightfully so, that our board staff is aware of it and going to respond. If you're not, our new
Absolutely.
deputy's going to.
We're on it.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for bringing that to the fro. Any other board member want to raise a question? All 4 of us, and anybody had their hand up in the room? No? Online? No? Okay, then we'll keep going. Thank you for doing those reports. Item number 8, I'm going to bring board staff, Zubair Dosu. Why do I do that? To introduce that item. I know better. I'm sorry. This is the Army Corps of Engineers is going to do a presentation on levee inspection results, which we always like. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, President
Please
Dolan,
don't.
Vice President Alliance, members of the board. My name is Zubair Dosu. Currently, I'm a water resource engineer for the board's enforcement section. And today, Emily Green, senior engineer from the Corps' inspection section, will give a presentation on the inspection results for the levee inspection results for the Reclamation District 1602 Del Porto levee system in Stanislaus County. After her presentation, I will provide board staff's analysis and answer any questions you may have. Also online with us today is Nick Short, from a representative from RD 1602. Nick Short is also the operations manager from Twin Cities Irrigation Company. And Twin Cities Irrigation Company owns a majority of the property within the levee corridors and does the routine maintenance for the district. Nick Short will be able to provide any questions you may have and also to give any comments. So now please welcome Emily Green.
Thank you for the introduction and information. Good morning.
Thank you, Zubair. Good morning, President Dolan and members of the board. Again, I'm here today to share our inspection results from the RD 1602 Del Puerto levee system that was inspected by USACE in July of 2023.
And you are Emily Green.
Yes, and I am Emily Green. All right, so this levee system is part of the Lower San Joaquin River and Tributaries Project. It's located 3 miles east of Patterson in Stanislaus County, located along the left bank of the San Joaquin River. It's a 6.2-mile levee system and reduces flood risk to the adjacent agricultural fields. So here's a snapshot of the report card. There were 6 levee embankment categories that were rated unacceptable, which we define as expected to have a negative impact on project performance. Categories that were assigned an unacceptable rating include encroachments, erosion, animal control, depressions and rutting, cracking, and seepage. 3 of these 6 items were items that determine that impact PL 8049 eligibility, and 3 categories are those that do not impact eligibility. All right, so we have a few examples from the inspection report. All of these items were assigned an unacceptable rating, again, and they, as defined as these are expected to have a negative impact on project performance. So starting with number 1, we're looking at a large tree on the waterside slope that has fallen and created a large void in the slope, measuring about 3 feet in diameter and 2 feet deep. So the picture you're looking up on the screen, there's a zoomed out photo, which is the larger photo, so you can really get a scale of the size of the tree and where it's located. And there's a smaller photo in the bottom right corner that's just zoomed into that void that was left in the levee. Photo number 2, this shows an inlet of a 24-inch CMP that's crossing the levee. No significant issues were observed during this visual inspection related to this pipe, and this pipe is identified in the project as-builts. However, a recent video inspection performed by DWR revealed severe internal defects. DWR assigned the highest likelihood of failure rating, which is a 5. So I really like this example because I think it demonstrates the importance of these video inspections. Without it, we really wouldn't fully understand the risk associated with this feature. So all the hard work that DWR is doing to perform these levee inspections, I think is great. Photo number 3, we're looking at a large erosion feature observed 15 feet from the waterside levee toe. It measured about 100 feet long, 20 feet wide, and 8 feet deep. In the back of the photo, you can see an inspector standing there. It gives you a good idea of the scale, the size of this erosion feature. The projected levee prism is estimated to have been eroded by about 3 feet at this location. Finally, photo number 4, a large longitudinal crack was observed on the landside slope extending about 200 feet. The crack measured 2.5 inches wide and up to 18 inches deep. So that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions, or I'll pass it back to Zubair. I know he's got some more slides he's going to talk through as well.
I think I identified that there is a person on photo 3, so that certainly shows the scale of the erosion. Yeah. Little stick figure is a person. Okay. Thank you. Board member input? Seems none. Pretty thorough. I'm sorry, board member Countryman is not here to see the more photos, but we'll make sure that he is aware of that.
Thank you, Emily, for your presentation. And I would just like to address the photo 3 just because it looks so alarming. We did receive a comment from the district that this area was scoured out through the high water periods from the winter storms when the river changed its alignment and came closer to the levee. And it has now since been backfilled and it's no longer an issue. So moving on to board staff's
That does
analysis.
happen because there is a bit of a gap between the inspection and when we receive the information.
Right, right.
We
So
assume that things hopefully are done. So in this case, you are. Thanks for reporting. that.
shows that the system is working. Okay, so when comparing the levy inspection results from the Corps' 2014 inspection to the Corps' 2023 inspections, and I apologize, on the screen it says 2024. The inspection report was completed in 2024, but the actual inspection occurred in 2023. What can be noted is that the levy system did improve in emergency supplies and equipment, as well as flood preparedness and training and vegetation growth. However, this levy system is currently inactive in the PL 8499 rehabilitation program for receiving unacceptable ratings in areas concerning encroachments, as well as erosion bank cave-in, and lastly, animal control. Today, we do have a photo summary of the items affecting PL 8499 eligibility that will show you a percentage based on, yes, that is the photo summary. This depicts the percentage based on type of observation. So if you look at photo 1 in the top left corner of the screen, 43% of observations affecting eligibility were related to encroachments. Of those 43%, 38%, which is 8 observations affecting eligibility, pertain to utility crossings. Photo 1 shows a utility crossing with a wooden stick propping open the flap gate. 5%, which is 1 observation, relates to a detention basin that was cut at the landside levee slope, which you can see in photo 2. And looking in the center, we have photo 3, which shows 38%, which is again 8 observations affecting PL 8499 eligibility were relating to animal control. Photo 3 shows animal burrowing activity that occurred on the landside levee slope. This burrow is approximately 1 foot in diameter and 5 feet deep. Lastly, we have photo 4, which depicts, photo 4 represents 19% of observations, and 19% of observations affecting PL 8499 eligibility relating to erosion and bank cave-in. 3 of the 4 erosion and bank cave-in observations were cited near utility crossings. And as part of the board's enforcement section's pipe prioritization program, enforcement staff has identified 6 pipes that have been deemed for high priority and are in queue for enforcement staff to address. This completes my analysis, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have, as well as we do have the district online to give comment if so.
All right. Thank you for the photos and the explanations,
Yeah.
not just the photo, but what we're looking at. Thank you for that. Board members, comments on this? Audience? So, who is online? Would you
Nick Short,
introduce?
Nick Short from
Mr.
RD
Short?
1602.
Is he unmuted? Mr. Short, you're ready to go if you are unmuted. I'm going to lean over here to our experts in the corner. Can you help with getting him online? I see his name as a participant. But I don't see the little microphone next to his name.
Good morning. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
good. We have you now, Mr. Short.
Sorry, I couldn't see the mute or unmute option and it just popped up. So thank you guys.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
Doing well. You have comments for us?
The only comments I can have is to kind of fill you guys in. I just assumed this role about just a couple months ago. And going through these, we are now actively working with the DWR, also with Zubair and the Army Corps. We are actively remediating a lot of these minor issues that we can handle, regarding the animal control. That big tree that was in one of the pictures, we have worked on getting that taken care of. We are looking at this and taking a more active role with the additional landowners that border our properties, as well as the levee. We are looking at this and like I said, trying to just do a better job on remediating a lot of these issues. And we are open for discussion and help and assistance and trying to improve some of our grades.
You dropped off.
Oh,
Reminds me of home.
can you hear me?
We can now. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I don't know where I dropped off.
Does that conclude your remarks, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
We appreciate that you're coming and giving an update. Often we don't hear from the district, so we wonder if there's activity. So we know it's a job.
Well, thank you guys for having us.
Well, us guys are happy to have you here as well. Thank you. Any closing remarks, Mr. Dosu? I got it right.
Yes, you did get it right. No closing remarks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be sure that board member Countryman gets those excellent photos with explanation. I think we can just keep going. Okay, item number 9, board items. So my agenda is correct. It was just my notes were incorrect. You already know that A, as in Apple, has been postponed. So B, as in Bob, Dustin Sanoski, the board staff, going to introduce this item. We're being asked to approve an amended assurance agreement, and you can explain the rest. Good morning.
That is correct. Good morning, President Dolan, Vice President of Alliance, members of the board. My name is Dustin Sanoski. I'm a senior engineer with the Flood System Improvement Branch. I am presenting agenda item 9B for approval of an amended assurance agreement to the 1956 assurance agreement for the Great Valley Grasslands Floodplain Restoration Project. This presentation summarizes my staff report findings and recommendations to the board. Here's some background information on why we're here today. In November of 2020, the board approved the Great Valley Grasslands Floodplain Restoration Project through resolution 2020-10 and permit 19513 that was brought to the board by the California Department of Parks and Rec. The project plan was to breach 3 levee locations and remove parts of the lower San Joaquin Levee District levee in units 2 and 25. The project objective was to reestablish a hydraulic connection with the San Joaquin River by reconnecting 120 acres of historical floodplain habitat with the San Joaquin River, reducing average San Joaquin River flood stages and velocities, improving channel habitat, and reducing the extent of non-native vegetation. So some further background information per resolution 2020-10, board staff was directed by paragraphs 9, 10, and 11 in the resolution. I'm not going to read that, but I'll basically summarize the top paragraph, paragraph 9, talking about updating the descriptive document. Staff are coordinating with DWR to update the descriptive document, which will be completed when this amended assurance agreement is approved. Paragraph 10 there in the middle, regarding updating the operations and maintenance manual. Staff has completed the O&M updates with the edits provided by Lower San Joaquin Levee District and will post it to the DWR website after the approved amended assurance agreement is inserted into the O&M manual. And then down there at the bottom, paragraph 11 regarding updating the assurance agreement, that is why we're here today. Staff has reviewed the assurance agreements with Lower San Joaquin Levy District, and both agencies have agreed to the terms contained in this amended assurance agreement as attachment A. So the following slides are to get an understanding of where the location is. The location for this item is within the Lower San Joaquin Levy District and is east of San Jose, south of Stockton, north of Fresno, a little bit, about 50 miles.
Something like that, yeah. You started with the satellite photo.
Yeah, I wanted to give kind of a general overview of the location, and you can see the entire Lower San Joaquin Levy District.
Yeah.
This is the portion there at the top. It is along the San Joaquin River in Merced County, and then much closer view. This location, again, is on the San Joaquin River in the Great Valley Grassland State Park, surrounded by the towns of Livingston, Newman, Justine. Gustine.
I went to college with someone from that little town.
Okay, Gustine, thank you. So this site map shows the levy units that will be removed from O&M requirements with Unit 2 in blue and Unit 25 in yellow. So Unit 2, levy miles 0 through 2.33, that backs up to the State Route 165, and all of Unit 25, all 2.47 miles. And these are the proposed levy alterations. As stated before, the parts of the levy to be removed are shown there outlined in black, and the levy breaches outlined there in green where there were historical floodplain channels. And so staff recommends the board approve the amended assurance agreement, and in doing so, finds the approval of the amended assurance agreement is a continuing administrative activity and is thus not a project under CEQA. Please approve the amended assurance agreement in its current form and delegate board president and secretary the authority to sign the amended assurance agreement. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Board members have questions? Vice President, fine. No.
Yes, Mr. Sinofsky, thanks for that.
Thank you.
This is completely unrelated to what you just did, but
Okay.
when you were showing the photos, I really like that photo, like you said, for perception. So San Jose, Stockton, Fresno.
Mhm.
So this is just for our staff generally. When you had the Fresno one, I'm actually curious, like I said, it's totally unrelated. Do we have photos like that from up high of the floods that went all the way in, you know, that basically brought the sea back? I'd love to see that from that same perspective. So I don't usually see photos like you did there. I want to commend you for it. And now I'm trying to sign you, hopefully, to go find that other one for us. But I would love to see a photo like that before and then one after of what that flood looked like in the Central
Yeah.
Valley.
I'd be happy to look for that.
Yeah, but thanks for I like how you put the perception out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is our executive officer and our deputy executive officer making note of that? They're nodding, yes, that does, to say that, that doesn't show. Oh, that was a good one, yes. It's always good to have that perspective. And just noting San Jose is not in our jurisdiction, but hey, why not? All right, anything else? This is what we'd like to happen. I remember this when it has to be an act of Congress for this levy to be decommissioned. And the work of the Department of Water Resources and our staff to work with this restoration project to amend the assurance agreement is creative and appropriate, and I'm glad it's being done. So things are not stalled. Secretary.
Yeah, I'll second that. I know a lot of work has gone into this, you know, from a whole lot of people over many years. So congratulations to everyone involved. Be happy to vote for it. I'll move that it be approved. Item 9B as recommended by staff. I do have one question, which is, I'm curious if you could say, you know, what it was about our process that caused it to take the last several years from the last time we saw it until now. And I wonder if it might just be as simple as that there wasn't a really, compelling reason for it to have to happen super quickly. And there are other things going on because the situation on the ground is what it is and it's happening, or if there was something more complicated that we could learn from to help these things go a little bit more quickly.
Well, I can speak for being brought in within the last couple of years. These things do take time with regard to the coordination that it takes. Even just updating the O&M manual, coordinating with the Corps, coordinating with the district to make sure that these are the updates that need to happen. We process the O&M updates first, and then this assurance agreement second. We had a draft assurance agreement that we were processing. We decided to go a different route. We brought in our legal counsel, and we were able to then streamline the process. And I think, unfortunately, things just like this take a little bit of time.
They are complicated. I do know and would comment that the various entities that need to be part of that might not always be ready and available to answer when we want, but this was a precedent.
Mhm.
This is not something where there was rules already in place.
Yes,
So that's
what I understand as well.
included to that as well. So the next one should not take this time. But I recall that we would have updates on the board and we'd be like, well, we're not quite sure how to do it. It's in place, so it's all right. Maybe a flood will just take it all out and then that will do it.
Mhm.
And that's the point. So I think we have a precedent now. So hopefully
Mhm. Absolutely.
we can go more quickly than decade.
Or Chair, I'll go ahead and second the motion that's.
Okay, there's a motion that has been made to approve the recommendations that are listed by staff and were verbally presented by Mr. Sinatsky. And a motion by Member Johnson, Secretary Johnson, second by Member Griego. It's okay to have a motion on the floor and still have public comment. I just want to know that on the somebody who actually teaches Robert's Rules of Order. Anyone want to talk? I see no one raising their hand or standing in the audience. Do we have any online? Is there someone? There is someone? My eyes aren't good enough to say it. Kristen Colbert? Ms. Colbert, you are able to unmute yourself.
Great. Good morning. Are you able
Good
to,
morning.
can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Just a quick comment. Good morning, President Dolan, members of the board, and members of the public. My name is Kristen Colbert, and I'm Associate Director of California River Conservation at American Rivers. American Rivers actually manages the restoration project associated with this levee, this portion of the levee, in partnership with California State Parks. And completion of the project construction will reconnect over 100 acres of floodplain with the San Joaquin River, protect key fish and wildlife habitat, and some of the best preserved remaining native grasslands in the Central Valley, and enhance visitor experience for the public, particularly for nearby disadvantaged communities with limited access to green space and open space in their community. I'm commenting to just say that we are really grateful for our partnership with California State Parks and with the Lower San Joaquin Levee District. And we are really grateful for the board's consideration of the amended assurance agreement. Thank you for allowing me to provide comment.
Thank you very much for your information of the benefits on this. With, we know that because we've been hoping that this would happen for a while, and particularly speaking to improvements in access and establishment of parks in the San Joaquin Valley. We know there's a deficit, so this is a step. So thanks for your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I don't see any other hands raised online, so we will have the roll call for the vote.
Member Bosler is absent. Member Countryman is absent. Member Griego. Secretary Johnson.
Aye.
Vice President Valines. Aye. President Dolan.
Yes. I'll state the obvious, that motion was approved, 4 votes yes, to absent, one vacancy. So
Excellent.
thank you for the presentation.
Thank you all.
I'm glad we did this. Finally. I was afraid I would be well past my time on the board before something happened. Okay. C, as in
Chris.
certain, as in Chris. You're right. Board member assignments. The executive officer and I, and speaking with board members, this is board member assignments. The impetus for this was the loss of member Ramirez and trying to arrange assignments. There'll probably be another change when we get our 7th member, but for now, good to know assignments. So,
Thank you, President Dolan. Chris Lee, your executive officer. There was a draft of board member assignments included in your briefing package. I've been informed of some changes to the assignments to the 6 regional flood management planning areas. So I'll just review those as amended. So for the mid and upper Sacramento, Jane Dolan and Brian Johnson are assigned, or proposed to be assigned. Feather River, Jane Dolan and Mary Jane Griego. For lower Sacramento, Delta North, Brian Johnson and Joe Countryman. For lower San Joaquin and Delta South, Joe Countryman and Keely Bosler. For mid San Joaquin, Mike Valines and Brian Johnson. And for upper San Joaquin, Keely Bosler and Jane Dolan. And there are no other changes that I'm aware of to the document as distributed earlier.
there are other things in there. Explain again the coordinating committee, advisory committee, and that board members are frequently asked or have the initiative to do things. So we just need to make sure it's not more than 2, so that we do follow the law for participation. So I'm going to call for a vote, because if one of you want to complain about this, you're going to have to do it after the vote. Does anyone want to comment on these? This is board member assignments. We've been working on this. It's, you know, Tim Ramirez was a loss, so we had to like put the burden on some others for a while. But everybody said no. Okay. Anyone, after I said that, in the audience want to comment? Anyone on that? Any hands? No hands. Okay. We're voting on this, correct?
Yes.
Please call the roll.
Oh, what about a motion?
Oh,
I move that we approve the revised committee assignments as read to us by Mr. Leaf.
motion by Secretary Johnson, second by Member Griego. I was a little assertive there in saying it would be approved. So we'll find out on the vote. Please call the roll.
Member Bosler is absent. Member Countryman is absent. Member Griego. Secretary Johnson.
Aye.
Vice President Valines. President Dolan.
Yes. So the assignments are approved for our yes, 2 are absent, 1 vacancy, and I did speak to the 2 who are absent today. One might be a bit surprised, but probably not. Okay. I'm ready to press unless someone says, please give me a break. Okay. Item number 10, Department of Water Resources. We have the written report, the written monthly report. Thank you. Mr. Eric and your staff. We appreciate having that. Did anyone want to make a comment on it? I see none. See none there. No hands. Then we'll proceed to item B, as in better. An update on the development of the 2027 Central Valley Flood Protection Plan. Christopher Williams, DWR. Still morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Glad to have you here.
Happy to be here. Good morning, President Dolan, Vice President Valines, board members, members of the public, and colleagues that are in attendance. My name is Christopher Williams, Department of Water Resources, Division of Flood Management. I'm the Flood Planning Branch Manager. I'm going to be joined today by my colleague, Hillary Murphy. She's operating in her new capacity, her new role as Plan Formulation and Communications Lead for the Central Valley Flood Protection Plan. And I'm here today to talk about I'm pretty excited that we're putting together a very capable team for this next update for the Central Valley Flood Protection Plan. We're trying to recruit the best possible talent where the talent is. And this presentation this morning represents the first time that we are in front of the board presenting on the new update to the plan, but it's not going to be the last time. Over the next 3.5 years, we hope to come before the board many times as the team reports on various efforts that we're working on and progression on plan development.
We would welcome that, as you know.
I mentioned that we're putting together a very capable team. Many of the faces and names are going to be very familiar to this board. A lot of the key people and players have worked on prior plans, and many of the roles might have changed, but the faces are going to be the same. So it's going to be a good effort. And as always, I will say that we have really valued the working relationship we've had with this board and board staff on each one of the plan updates, and we're looking forward to continuing that same tradition of working together prior to plan adoption so that we make sure that we get the best possible plan put together before
Thank
adoption.
you for that. It is mutual.
Where do I hit?
Over there.
Oh. Okay, so today's discussion, I'm going to cover some of the CVFPP history. It's important to know where we've been if we're going to put together the best possible plan that we can. It's important to know where the roots are and where you started. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the vision of the team, and then I'm going to turn it over later in the presentation to Hillary, and she's going to cover how we're organizing ourselves, how we're putting the teams together, looking at the efforts, and getting everything organized so that we can develop this plan. And then she's going to talk a little bit about the 2027 themes. And these are the key pieces that are going to be woven into the fabric of the entire plan. Oops. Okay, so the Central Valley Flood Management System. So the CVFPP covers a lot of different areas. It covers a lot of actions, policies, ambitious efforts that need to be underway, but at the center of it all is the State Plan of Flood Control. And so modification and updates and addressing the State Plan of Flood Control, what we're really talking about when we say that term is the facilities and the lands and the maintenance, operation and maintenance, the conditions, the programs, the projects that are underway, and the plans all going into the Central Valley of California. The State Plan of Flood Control is comprised of many different things. One of them is 1,600 miles of state federal levees. There's pumping plants, 5 major weirs in both basins, outfall gates, numerous other structures that make up the State Plan of Flood Control. It's an extensive system of bypasses and floodways, and also several areas of deep floodplains, over 20 feet deep. There's 2 unique river basins, the Sacramento and the San Joaquin. As you know, each one of those river basins has 5 major rivers, and also major urban centers, small communities, and rural and agricultural areas. They share the same footprint with many threatened and endangered species. The same footprint where a lot of the recreational activities happen. The same footprint that, one of the unique features is our inland delta, which is a very special area. The entire Central Valley is a very special area, unique to the country. Many people call this area their home. It's home to over 1.3 million people that are living in the floodplains and over $223 billion in structures and contents at risk. So, talking about history and where we've been. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit this nation. It was a wake-up call to the entire nation. And it caused California to consider its own vulnerability and flood risk, and identify that we also face one of the highest flood risks in the entire nation. As a response to that, in 2008, Senate Bill 5 was passed, the Central Valley Flood Protection Act of 2008, and it called upon the state to develop the comprehensive Central Valley Flood Protection Plan. It's the most comprehensive study. There's been many over the years in the Central Valley, but the CVFPP represents the most comprehensive effort to be updated every 5 years that's ever been undertaken in the Central Valley. The 2012 plan was the inaugural plan, the first one to come out. It was the first large-scale planning effort, and it required a significant amount of resources to develop that first plan, but it laid the framework and the foundation for all future plans to follow. The 2012 plan updated the initial risk areas that identified 4 areas of interest: urban, small community, rural, and system-wide areas. It also looked at levee fragility and levee conditions. There was a comprehensive effort to look at the urban levee evaluation and the non-urban levee evaluations. And it also looked at different approaches. So we were, when called upon to develop this plan, we looked at, are we going to have an approach that looks at only protecting the high-risk communities? Or are we going to look at restoring system capacity, or something much more ambitious and enhancing the capacity of the system significantly? At the end of the day, we came up with the state system-wide investment approach, which I would say represents the best features of all 3 of those approaches, but also looks at it from what is the most implementable from a fiscally and financial perspective. It also was the first time we had done the programmatic environmental impact report and the conservation strategy framework. So after 2012, we embarked on the 2017 Central Valley Flood Protection Plan, which one of the key features was starting off with the regional planning effort. So working with our regional partners comprehensively from bottom-up approach to develop their priorities and efforts into the 2017 plan. We also embarked on a basin-wide feasibility study for each one of the basins and a comprehensive technical analysis that was a little different than 2012. We had our new CVHS, Central Valley Hydrology Study, and the Central Valley Floodplain Evaluation and Delineation Program. We included a comprehensive investment strategy, and also that included a comprehensive operations, maintenance, repair, rehabilitation, and replacement work group and efforts. For 2022, the latest update of the plan, it further refined all of the aspects of the plan and also looked at climate change from a new range of scenarios. Back in 2012, we were building a lot of the technical analysis on work that had been done prior, and it included about a 30% increase in flows for looking at climate change and sea level rise. In 2017, we looked at a mid-century projection and a middle of the range for how climate change would affect the facilities of state plan of flood control. For 2022, we looked at a different range of scenarios that followed the latest science. So I want to stress once again that the strength of the CVFPP is in coordination, the relationships, and the partnerships that facilitate information sharing and collaboration. This isn't just a top-down or a bottom-up approach. It's really coming at it from all directions, and it's a multi-agency effort. Being a multi-agency effort, it's provided a centering vision, and it remains a living document for partners to share understanding of the flood risk and also develop alignment on flood risk management strategies. To do that, we've relied on the expertise of local agencies, federal agencies, regulatory agencies, non-governmental organizations, and state agencies, some of which are shown on the screen right now. And I want to just state that this is a lot of the key players, but certainly it's not comprehensive and exhaustive. There's a lot of different groups that are involved in each one of the plan updates. So some of the defining characteristics of the CVFPP. It's built through a strong collaboration amongst local, state, and federal partners. It's a descriptive but not a funding or permitting decision for specific projects. And it recommends bold investments and actions to reduce Central LA flood risk over the next 30 years. And promotes multi-benefit projects, ecosystem functions, resiliency, sustainability, and the multi-benefit projects. It's a diverse portfolio of actions across these 4 areas of interest that I mentioned: the system-wide actions, urban actions, rural and agricultural, and small communities. And when I say that's a diverse portfolio of projects, we're not talking about just structural and non-structural projects, but also short-term and long-term projects, maintenance actions, actions that benefit the ecosystem and natural environment, nature-based solutions, reservoir operations, and further studies, and a lot of different other actions that are needed. So it's a very comprehensive portfolio of actions over the next 30 years, broad and diverse. So I want to talk about the team's vision that we are looking at, what you can expect for the 2027 update. The first one I want to talk about is actively streamlining the process. We want to maximize the resources internally and increase community access to data. One of the key features that I'm very excited about is we are going to be developing a database to store all the information. There's a lot of different information that goes into the CVFPP, a lot of good data that we get from our regional partners, a lot of good technical data that is out there, a lot of different components that lead into the investment strategy that before we were just juggling different spreadsheets and different financial models and different things like that. But we're developing a database that will hopefully tie into some of the others that are out there in some of the other groups at the local and state levels. Bringing all of the different information together, the information that's relevant to the CVFPP in one spot, and also developing dashboards, several different layers of access so that our partners and state program managers and this board and also the public can access that data. So it's kind of like what I've referred to as like CVFPP Live. I think it's going to really change how we do each one of the 5-year updates, and it's going to make sure that, you know, given in future what we're dealing with right now and also with future updates, if we're resource challenged, this is going to be the backbone that's going to make it a lot easier and access the data in real time. We're going to utilize the latest climate data, refresh projections, models, and inventory consistent with other state efforts. We want to follow the latest climate change science. It's been developing rapidly. We want to align with the academic community. There's been a lot of good work that's been done in the last several years. Also, a lot of good work at the local and state level. We want to make sure that this plan, just like was called out in the 2022 update, alignment with efforts, alignment with other plans. We want to make sure that we are doing the same kind of work when it comes to climate science and sea level rise and inland impacts that's also being done out there. We want to communicate early and often. I mentioned we want to come before this board several times and update you on our progress, what we're working on. We also have different venues like the coordinating committee. We have regional meetings that we have with our regional partners. But a lot of times communicating early and often can also mean just picking up the phone and calling someone. So we want to make sure that we are staying aligned and making sure that none of it is done black box. We don't want too much moss to grow as the time goes on. So you guys know exactly what we're working on. Part of that is leaning into our regional planning partnerships that have been established. We want to maintain that trust and support and collaborative implementation. It's always been the strength of the CVFPP. We want to keep that dialogue open and if anything, strengthen those relationships. We all know, like I said, that sometimes we're in an area of resource challenged. It's the same as like California. We're always in drought or flooding. Either way, we want to make sure that we have the right people being communicated with.
They'll tell us. I see that you have maintained trust and support. I'm assuming the support means to fund the regional flood management groups.
Very true. So as
To the extent
always,
we can.
we are doing what we can. The state has always supported the regional planning effort, and we will continue to chase after any options funding wise or other to support that effort. We want to operate strategically, be aware of and utilize all related work being done. As I said, the 2022 plan highlighted the alignment that's needed. Some of the other good work that's out there that we need to be aligned of, and there's going to be more to come, but even right now, I mean, we have a new water plan that came out in 2023. We have a new DWR strategic plan. Down in the San Joaquin, there's been some very impactful watershed studies and some of that good climate change work that's been done. There's one for the Merced that's out and 4 more that are coming in 2025 that we need to be aligned with. You all are very aware of the YOLO bypass work and the master plan that's being worked on. The upcoming comprehensive plan with partnership with the Army Corps of Engineers. Also, there's many other local studies and efforts that are underway that we need to be aligned with. And last but not least, one of our vision is be open to reevaluating the state system-wide investment approach. As you all know, with each one of the plan updates, we always look at refinements to the SSIA. That's something we've always done with each plan update. But the SSIA, as I mentioned, was conceived, 14 years ago, and it's been a decade since we described in the first plan, over a decade, the SSIA. Things have changed. We need to look at improving system resilience to the new flows and new hydrologic analysis and what it's telling us. Some of the, as was touched upon in the 2017 plan and then further highlighted in 2022, we're seeing increases of like 5 times the flows. And how is that going to impact the San Joaquin Basin or the Sacramento Basin? It's really kind of scary. A lot of time has gone by, and we want to align with not only the science and the data and the models, what they're telling us, but also other things that are in the state's priority and local priorities. So to do that, we need to take a look at the state system-wide investment approach. So at this point, that's all I have. I'm going to turn it over to Hillary Mann. As I mentioned, she's the plan formulation lead, and she's going to walk us through some of the organization that we have for the new plan and some of the themes and vision for the team. Afterwards, we are both available to answer any questions you might have. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Hillary. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Mann.
Good morning.
I see you have the bulk of the slides.
Hello, President Dolan, members of the board. My name is Hillary Murphy. I'm the manager of the plan formulation and communications section within the Division of Flood Management. Happy to be here today to share with you an update. Now that Chris has given us an overview of the history of the Central Valley Flood Protection Plan and the vision of our team, I want to share a little bit more about the organizational structure of our team. As we've mentioned in the past, do you want me to move this? The responsibility for development of the plan has moved back to the Division of Flood Management. We have a new flood planning branch that's led by Chris Williams, which is responsible for the overall program management. Within the flood planning branch, we have a new plan formulation and communication section, which I'll be managing, that's leading the planning team and overall plan development. As we've done in the past, we'll be working closely with our partners at the Central Valley Flood Protection Board. We'll also be working closely with executive and leadership throughout the Department of Water Resources to make sure that we're aligning with the goals and policies throughout the department and integrating the various work efforts underway into the plan. The planning team will be responsible for leading coordination amongst the various other teams responsible for developing key components of the plan. That includes our technical team that will be led out of our flood planning branch. The technical team will be responsible for leading an update to the flood risk analysis. We also have the investment strategy team that will be led out of our plan formulation section. The investment strategy team will be responsible for updating our portfolio of actions, identifying the investment needed, and providing funding recommendations. We also have the Regional Flood Management Program team. That program will be led by Kareemia Rao in our plan formulation and communication section. And as Chris mentioned, the Regional Flood Management Program is an essential part of our past and our current update. So we'll continue to lean in and support that program so that we can bring in regional vision, project descriptions, and priorities into the plan. We also have the team responsible for the development of the conservation strategy, and that will be led out of our Division of Multi-Benefit Initiatives by David Martasian and Lori Clamero-Chio. And lastly, we have the team responsible for a flood system status report and state plan of flood control development. That team will be led through our hydrology and flood operations branch in our Division of Flood Management by Mike Engelman. Development of the 2027 plan began shortly after adoption of the 2022 plan. Shortly after the adoption of the 2022 plan, we had each of our teams meet and have a series of hot wash meetings where they shared their successes, lessons learned, and ideas for future updates. The planning team took information from those hot wash meetings and used it to develop a roadmap to our 2027 update. We began the development of a dashboard that's going to help improve the way that we collect and share information. And we also developed the proposed themes for this update. In the next portion of this presentation, I'll share more about that dashboard as well as the themes. As we move throughout this plan development process, the planning team will be responsible for coordinating the various other work efforts by our other teams, all working in parallel with each other. These teams have already initiated their kickoff meetings and have begun developing their scopes of work. And we're excited to shortly share the information on what these teams are working on and have opportunities for input in alignment and coordination with our local, state, and federal partners. As we move throughout this process, the work each of these teams is doing will feed into each other and feed into the plan development. We'll be working closely together through publication of our working and public drafts, collaborating together as we respond to comments and feedbacks we get through those drafts with the goal of the publication and adoption of the 2027 plan. So we mentioned one of the first pieces our team worked on was development of the key themes. We're happy to be able to share these with you here today. Our first theme is climate smart, flood management, and emergency readiness. And this might look familiar. In 2022, we had the theme of climate change, and this is an evolution of that theme. And here we're looking at how can we adapt to the new realities we're facing with extreme weather by looking holistically at water management. Our next theme is equity-centered planning and engagement. In 2022, we identified the need to consider equity in flood management. With this theme, we're elevating that discussion and considering equity as we move throughout our planning process. The third theme is transparent, efficient, and accessible. This theme is really highlighting the development of our dashboard, where we're improving the way that we collect and share information. And our last theme is collaborative planning and implementation. We want to emphasize the importance of seeing actions in the plan implemented and use our planning process to help support that implementation. Getting into the details a little bit more here with our first theme, climate smart flood management and emergency readiness. I mentioned this theme is about adapting to the new realities we're facing with extreme weather by looking holistically at water management. We understand that we're going to be facing extended periods of drought broken up by extreme floods. We are also anticipating experiencing fires and flood after fires. In recent emergency response efforts, we experienced high wind events that created power challenges in emergency response efforts. So as we understand we're going to be facing these challenges, we want to take a fresh look at flood risk management and think about it holistically with other efforts. That might include looking at our reservoir operations and how that can help support flood management. It also looks at flooding as an opportunity to help support groundwater recharge. We also want to take into consideration opportunities to implement nature-based solutions, as well as non-structural solutions, which might include emergency alert systems, conservation easements, and improved educational outreach. We understand that we can't build our way out of some of the extreme floods that are in our future, so we want to highlight the importance of robust emergency response and being able to recover quickly after a disaster. With this theme, we're also looking at updating our technical analysis, leveraging the latest data and projections, and aligning our analysis with DWR's latest climate policy. We also want to highlight successful stories of climate smart approaches so that we can learn from these successes where possible. Our next theme is equity-centered planning and engagement. If you've been to a Silver Jackets meeting before, you may have seen this graphic. It does a great job of showing the benefit of continued collaboration and its ability to build partnerships and enhance each other's resources. And something that's important to consider here is that when we are referring to our underrepresented and small communities, many times they're left out of this collaboration continuum. That might be due to resource challenges or language barriers or other impediments. So as we recognize this, it's important for us to consider how we might need to alter our standard engagement practices to better help serve these communities. That brings us to some more points regarding this theme. I mentioned that we need to reconsider and evaluate our standard engagement practices to bring in these communities. It will be a priority for us to engage with our small and underrepresented frontline communities, as well as with our tribal groups to leverage their lived experiences. We'll be taking a close look at the risk metrics from our technical analysis and evaluating if there's adjustments that need to be made specific to equity. We'll also be taking a close look at our portfolio. Our portfolio of actions has always included items that address the needs of small and underrepresented communities in rural areas, but it's time for us to take a close look at that to see if it's enough and if there's adjustments that need to be made. We'll also be taking a look at the way that we phase and prioritize the actions in our portfolio to see if there's adjustments that have to be made to better serve our underrepresented communities. Our third theme is transparent, efficient, and accessible. And with this theme, we're looking to improve the way that we collect and share data. In the past, when it's come time for us to provide an update to the plan, we've reached out to our regional partners with a large spreadsheet that included a portion of the 1,000 actions in our portfolio. We've asked them to provide updates to those existing actions in a relatively short time frame towards the end of our update process. With the development of this dashboard, our goal is to have an online portal that our partners can log into throughout the update process and provide updates to their existing actions and add new actions. They'll also be able to see in a map view where their projects are located, which will make it easy to highlight if there's something that's potentially missing or if there's multiple stakeholders submitting projects that impact the same area. In addition to improving the way that we're collecting information, we're also looking to improve the way that we share data. With this, we're looking to publish a public-facing dashboard with our final draft of the plan that anyone can log into and see content from the plan. That would include being able to search for items in the portfolio. So someone from the public could log on, see in map view where projects are located, and search for something like deferred maintenance projects in a specific county or non-structural solutions in a specific region. We're also looking to display risk data from our technical analysis, as well as update our performance tracking efforts and improve our performance tracking efforts and display information from there. Our fourth and final theme is collaborative planning and implementation. And the importance of seeing the plan implemented can't be emphasized enough. So with this theme, we're looking at how can we, as a planning team, support implementation of actions of the plan. And certain ways that the plan can do this is by highlighting the actions that are needed, the investment needed for those actions, and giving funding recommendations. We also highlight barriers to implementation and provide policy recommendations to help remove or reduce those barriers. Additional things we can do is to track recommendations from prior plans and track implementation progress from prior plans. We also can use this planning process to help support partnerships in relationships that are essential to building the enabling conditions required to see the successful implementation of a project. And lastly, the plan has always had a long-term 30-year vision. And in addition to that long-term vision, we can highlight some short-term targets to help move the plan forward. The four themes that we highlighted today are going to guide us throughout this plan development process. The teams we described are going to weave the content from the themes throughout the work they're doing to make the plan happen. Throughout this process, we will also be providing updates and have extensive opportunities for collaboration and coordination. We are happy to be here today to share the first stage of the work that we're doing and looking forward to many more opportunities for collaboration. And with that, that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Your preparation and probably practice shows. I looked at the number of slides and I did have a little OMGs, but which was fine. I'll stay forever, but that was very well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hillary Murphy.
Yes.
We'll make sure we get that correct. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Board members. So glad you're here and you did this. We're gonna see you a lot. You're not calling yourself, you're pointing. Thank you. Turn your head.
Hello,
Member Grego.
thank you.
I know.
Thank you for that presentation. That was great. And, you know, it always catches my attention when I see emergency response because being through 3 evacuations, you know, that's, you know, from the local perspective, that's really important. I know from the state perspective, it may be a little bit different than how I'm seeing it. But how do you work with, you know, emergency response from the the ground where the event may be occurring? I mean, let's face it, with climate change coming, more water on the levees, there's more risk of failure. And I always say, and I've said it on this board many times, is that if your levees are in so-so condition, you better have a good evacuation plan. And so how does the state work with the locals in order to make that happen?
Sure. Yeah, so the state works with the locals. We have our flood operations center. Anytime there's an emergency, each year we make sure that we follow the chain of command and we get out there. And I mean, in general, I would just say provide as many resources as possible for the local efforts to support what they're working on and step in when needed, when it goes beyond their level of resources. So where the plan fits into that is we have identified all the different pieces of emergency response, and we try and track the projects, and as you know, as a piece of the plan, also the condition of those levees and areas where there's been prior, the historical record of where there's been prior levee breaks and issues, and also when the teams are out there doing some sort of repairs, emergency repairs or rehabilitation, making sure that it's consistent with what the plan says and what future actions might need to be taken there. So I would say in general, just supporting the locals and making sure that state and also federal support is there when they need it.
It might be a good idea to add Member Grego to that team. And I would augment on that. There's always a pretty amazing turnover in certain smaller staffed local government on this. So it's constant communication and not assuming that everyone knows. Yeah. So yeah, communicate, inform, assist. Yeah, it's a big deal. And you never know when you're gonna have to do all of those. Okay. Board members, thank you. Is that a yes, I want to speak? Secretary Johnson? Okay. Instead of like reminding me of where I'm supposed to point, please.
I made a lot of notes and I have a number of questions and comments and may take some of them offline too, just to, but I wanted to thank you all for coming, and the presentation was good and the themes seem, to make sense to me. I'm really glad to see the emphasis on equity and the steps toward transparency and making it accessible to people. One of the things that we all noticed last time around that we had to have a very good plan and struggled at times to get the word out and to have people be able to have visibility into what it really means and how we hope for it to be used. So that's really good to see. I want to ask about the climate analysis. It says refreshing the climate data. I may not have, my paraphrase may not be exact, but I wonder if you can say a little bit more about what that means in terms of the next phase of the climate modeling, but then in particular what it means to incorporate that modeling back into the analysis or the investment strategy for the plan. The last time around was, I think, really good advancements in the science, but then we left it with quite a bit of uncertainty as to what people should do with with the new climate science that we included in the plan. And we had a number of our constituents developing projects asking us to help them understand what the new climate science, meant for them in terms of how they should be, designing and planning things, and our staff wondering what that means in terms of the standards that we should be, asking for in projects. And so I'm just wondering if you can say a little bit more about what that next phase of work looks like scientifically, and then how will it get rolled back into decision making?
Yeah, absolutely. Take a stab at it. Yeah, so the latest climate science and what we're going to do for this next plan update. First of all, let me just say I'm no complete expert on it. We have a technical team that's one of the first things out of the gate that they're working on right now, is looking at the hydrology.
It's Mr. Williams.
Yes.
That's all.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry,
That's what I was
Christopher
wondering.
Williams. So we have a team that's going to be working on that. I will say that we have heard loud and clear that in past plan updates, the regional partners would like to understand exactly at each phase what we're working on, and with an eye towards how they can integrate that into their projects. And so holistically overall, we're going to be trying to integrate some of that latest climate across the portfolio, not just in the state actions, but also the regional actions. One of the things that you're going to see in this next plan update that's going to be a little different than in the past is the hydrology that we're using. So we are still also, like I said, I'm not an expert, but we're going to be looking at the global climate models, but also using some of the innovative new approaches that we're seeing coming out of the state and academic communities, such as the weather generator kind of bottom-up approach, and trying to form a balance that we think is consistent with other state efforts, but also makes the most sense for the CVFPP. What I will say is that I mentioned that there's going to be future presentations. One of them is undoubtedly going to be on the technical analysis. And I think sooner than later, you're going to see one of the presentations to the board on exactly all the details of what that means, the new hydrology, and how we are going to be implementing that through the fairly complex, all the other different components of the technical analysis to lead to the final analysis. So yeah, look forward to bringing that before. And not only this board, but like I said, we heard loud and clear from our regional partners, and we have been planning one of the major pieces and content of the next regional planning meeting will be an update on the technical analysis, with more to come. So.
Thank you. Were you going to add something?
Hello, Hillary Murphy. I just wanted to add, you asked how that will impact the investment strategy, and that's something that we're still going to be evaluating. Chris mentioned that we're taking a look at the state system-wide investment approach, and that's a big piece to it. So we do foresee changes there, and more to come on how that impacts our investment strategy.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, and I look forward to seeing more of that. I would recommend that one of the things you look at as you're thinking about it is go back and look at the resolution that we used adopting the plan in general for things that our board, felt were important as next steps, and mostly geared toward implementation, but a little bit geared toward the next version as well, including on climate change. And that was something that we wrote, and it's in our words, but it was done in collaboration with DWR and a number of our outside constituents, the Flood Control Association and others. Along those lines, one of the last theme kind of blends collaboration and implementation, which it's appropriate because that's how implementation gets done. One of the themes from last time was performance tracking and metrics work, and there was a lot of effort that was happening through then, to develop tools for performance tracking for investments and flood safety and the conservation strategy and all of these things. And I've lost a little bit of touch with that over the last few months, but I hope we'll be able to be using those tools now to track where we are and see what kind of progress we're making for flood safety and the conservation strategy and such. Am I right about that?
You're right about that. There are two nods. It's a tough one.
Yeah, the transcript will show that the heads nodded. While we go back and keep doing the updates, I think a lot of us also have felt, we really just need to also keep the focus on, are we doing what we said we want to do, and are we keeping pace and getting it done? And then the last one is on the conservation strategy. I wonder if there's anything you could say about how that might be updated or better integrated into the rest of the plan. Just about everybody involved last time, DWR staff, us, other folks, felt like it really ought to be more definitively part of the main plan. And I don't know if that means that it's not a separate volume. I think there are reasons why the level of detail might warrant its own volume the way that a lot of the other volumes do, but also having the objectives and the themes from the conservation strategy and the implementation strategy all reflected in the main document, so that people can see how it fits together and track all of it together and see if the investment strategy as a whole and the state and federal and local investments are adding up to accomplishing all of it. And I wonder if what thought you've given to how that'll work this time around.
Yeah, and that, Christopher Williams, once again, I will say that blends into your prior question about the performance tracking as well. I know in the past, some of the early efforts on performance tracking were centered around the conservation strategy. One of the things we hope to achieve this time that's been talked about for several years now is integrating a lot more performance tracking over several different actions that the plan takes, and maybe being able to report out on the flood system status report a little bit better on not just the tracking of metrics and indicators and stuff from an ecosystem perspective, but also all the other pieces of the flood system. So more to come on that, but a lot of those discussions, although not mentioned in the presentation today, are happening on how we can better present that material in the system status report. And then on those same lines, we have heard, we've been part of those conversations, and we know that further integration of the ecosystem elements and the conservation elements, what does that look like for the plan? And so I think that more work needs to be done there, because to be frank, you ask 10 different people, you get 10 different answers. But we know that we can do a better job, and within the confines of the legislative mandate of what the plan shall include. But certainly making sure that the investment strategy, that's one of the main questions that would be the first one to be asked, is your portfolio of actions and the investment that you're calling out, how much of that reflects a multi-benefit, or the conservation elements are included in that. So we want to make sure that we're tackling those questions early on in the process, so that we can hopefully answer that question of further integration.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I, to the extent that it makes sense, I'm happy to be part of the discussion with constituents, helping to, and you all think through how that really works. And as you look toward the future with climate change, and what set of investments might come beyond the ones that we're trying to implement now, the really big system-wide benefits that create measurable progress for public safety and the conservation strategy, like those will be the same programs, right? And that's the way we need to be thinking about the generation of work that's in the early phases of planning now, and comes beyond the stuff that's already kind of near-term pipeline, right? Thank you.
A lot of heads being nodded here, including mine. This might actually be an impetus for the advisory committee to want to meet again. These are important things. They're complex but necessary. We've got equity, we've got conservation strategy, we have multi-benefit, we have protecting lives. I should probably put that first. I usually do when I talk, but we add the rest of it because it's all part of it. board members? Our audience?
I thought of one more, but it can wait. It's a minor.
We'll come back to you. Yes, please come forward and
Good morning, President Dolan, members of the board. My name is Richard Harriman. I'm an attorney in Chico with an office in Hanford. Am I speaking loud enough? Because I couldn't hear well enough, but I just wanted to tear off some of the comments that Board Member Johnson made with specific reference to the Tulare Basin and its integrated possibilities with this long-range plan. As you will recall, last year, we were looking at if there was a normal April, the Tulare Lake Basin would have become part and parcel of the lower San Joaquin Valley. And I attend the lower San Joaquin Delta levee district, lower San Joaquin levee district meetings, and we monitor DWR's documents and their data every month. And everybody was sitting on the edge of their chair wondering what's going to happen if we have a normal April, in which case the discharge into the Tulare Lake Basin from all of the rivers, including the Kings, would have to come north through the James Cut, or it would have had to go somewhere else. It would have come into the lower San Joaquin Valley as defined in your jurisdictional area. So what I'd like to do is accept DWR's invitation to communicate early and often, and not to bushwhack them, to say that I think if you can integrate into your analysis some of the data that came out of 2023, we really need to look at how a long-range plan for the San Joaquin Valley also includes the Tulare Valley, if you call it that, or the Tulare Basin. They're integrated, they're not going to get separate. And so I would urge DWR to consider that with specific asterisk is saying climate change is so dynamic, we're not going to know what's happening until it actually happens. So if the worst did happen, the San Joaquin Valley would be getting further discharges. And I know that this lower San Joaquin levee district very much was concerned about that for its impacts on the San Joaquin River corridor, and particularly communities like Firebaugh. And then the final point is the governor made it clear when he came down and visited Allensworth this last year that he cares about the disadvantaged, underdeveloped, underrepresented communities, and they are abundant in the Tulare Lake Basin, the Tulare Basin, not just the lake, the basin. So I would encourage that. I will look forward to engaging with DWR. Thank you for the opportunity to comment, and I hope that that is, my comments are a direct communication. I want to engage in a friendly manner with DWR as one of your partners. Thank you.
we hear you. Noted. Thank you, Mr. Harriman. Anyone else? Any hands up? No. Then we'll go back to Secretary Johnson. I think the request there is to hold that closer. Your comments are so germane, we want to make sure we get them.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, the last one is you know, more of a mundane issue, but it blends it relates to the question that I had about the climate modeling and also to the communication and transparency, which is if you could take back to the climate team an expression of interest from me in working with them on the communications part of the analysis they're doing. I'm very interested in that. The last time around, the work was really phenomenal, and it was reflected a great deal of effort, and some of it kind of got you know, lost along the way. And I'm not sure that we did as much as we could have to have decision makers around the state really understanding what the analysis showed. And it didn't help that we were adopting the thing at the end of a really long dry stretch. You know, we couldn't get people to come to the comment sessions on the plan at all. And then some of the climate material in the analysis got a little bit buried. You know, the summary results made it into the plan, but some of the technical appendices weren't super accessible and weren't able to be circulated all that well. And then the people working on it got, pulled to the next task. And I think we could do more to really hustle to make sure that we're doing everything we can to have decision makers understand the implications of what the modeling is showing. And that's the kind of thing that, possibly, board members like me can help with, and others, who aren't as tied to the technical work, but, have microphones and relationships and so on. So I'm interested in that as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Board Member Johnson, for that generous offer. Definitely, we will take you up on that.
That was Chris Williams. President Dolan says, yes, you will. Yeah, thank you for that. It's necessary and needs a lot of effort. So we're there to help. Do you have more?
Not right now.
Not today. Okay. Transcribe your notes. I would love to see them. I think we'll put the transcript into writing so that we can refer to it and not just have our own notes. Anything else? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you. Thank you to the two of you. Excellent presentation, really good information. We're going to have this interchange frequently, and I'm glad you're on board. Thanks. Okay, one more action item. Well, what do you want to take a break and come back and make this meeting last until 12:15? Item 10C is the Department of Water Resources Maintenance Area Budgets. Always look forward to this. So it's still morning. Good morning, Mark List.
Good morning, President Dolan, Vice President Valines, Secretary Johnson, and the lone other board member, Ms. Griego. It's a pleasure to be here this morning to present.
The ones that count.
To present the 2024-25 maintenance area budget package for the board's review and adoption. This is a hearing and action item. My name, for the record, is Mark List. I'm the manager of the technical support section in DWR's Flood Maintenance and Operations branch in the Division of Flood Management. With me this morning will be Brian Murphy, who will assist with presentation of the actual budget items for each of the individual. Other Murphy. Different. So
just for those of you that are watching, there's a little.
Yes.
We got two Murphys here, but
I have to get used
not
to
related.
Hillary Murphy's new names.
Okay.
Again,
that was tacky.
Item 10C for the agenda. Just as a background and introduction, kind of structure this presentation, and I'll just, before I start, I want to add Board Clerk Jonah Knapp has done an amazing job of assisting me getting this through this process. And I will also say that it seems like we were just here yesterday talking about this, but it was a year ago.
No, it does. Go like this.
Almost a full year. So we're back again. So just as a background, 8370 of the California Water Code provides that local jurisdictions are to operate and maintain reclamation levee works unless 8361 makes it Department of Water Resources responsibility specifically, or federal law provides something different. So 8370 is sort of the background material to say local entities will operate and maintain the state plan of flood control. 8361 provides very specific levees and channels and flood control facilities that are all named in the Central Valley Flood Protection Plan for the Department of Water Resources to operate and maintain. At points through history, local jurisdictions have either chosen not to, or for one reason or another, not been able to operate and maintain portions of the levee system they're responsible for. 12878 at CEQA, basically the water code section that lays out maintenance area creation, budgeting that we're talking about today, and the process for the department to operate and maintain certain sections of levies that would otherwise be under 8370 for local jurisdiction control. That's what brings us here today. We have 9 existing maintenance areas that DWR operates and maintains. The costs of those maintenance areas are defrayed by the protected residents through property tax assessments that get reimbursed to the department annually. So once an MA is established through this process, DWR is the state levy maintenance agency with authority and responsibility to operate and maintain those units as described in the Water Code 12878.21. So all costs that DWR incurs for O&M are reimbursable by the benefited property owners through tax assessments collected and paid by the applicable counties. Maintenance areas are eligible for other programs, as they would be if the local maintaining agency was handling that. That would include, as long as eligible, USA's PL 8499 for storm damage repairs in a presidential declared disaster. We have a DWR repair program called the Flood System Repair Project, which is a cost shared program. Some of the maintenance areas also participate in the Flood Maintenance Assistance Program to augment and get more work done than would otherwise be able to be done. And sort of the bottom line is we're allowed to participate in those, and we do for the benefit of the property owners who are paying for that work. 1287822 says any local agency who has their jurisdiction can give that up effectively. They can turn that over, or they can take over a maintenance area if it's in their interest to do so as well, in the state's interest to do that. That's happened. I'll briefly talk about that, and we'll go through where we are. So MAs have been created and dissolved over the years. Some examples: MA 10 and 11 were created in 1958 on the American River. MA 10 and 11 were dissolved in 1991 by the Reclamation Board, predecessor of this board. And OMRR responsibilities were transferred to the American River Flood Control District effective July 1st, 1991. Maintenance Area 5 was created in 1954 when Board of Supervisors of Butte County chose not to continue with a operations and maintenance desire in that particular area. The boundaries were altered in 1958, and Maintenance Area 5 is one of the maintenance areas in this budget package today. Maintenance Area 16 was created in 1986 after flood damage to an area. Reclamation district in the area couldn't maintain a board, appointed a new board. The entire board resigned shortly thereafter. So Maintenance Area 16 was created, and DWR operates and maintains that area today as well. Just last year, Maintenance Area 3, formerly, was dissolved. Maintenance Area 3 was created in 1949. Feather River, Butte and Sutter counties, Levy District 1 of Sutter County, not Levy District 1 of Glenn County, but Levy District 1 of Sutter County, came to the board actually the same day that we had our budget presentation last year in April, talked about the desire to take that over. At the May 26th, 2023 board meeting, this board adopted resolution 2023-05, which dissolved effective August 1st, Maintenance Area 3. So Maintenance Area 3 is not a part of this budget package. So now we have 9 as opposed to 10 maintenance areas. So what does maintenance area operation and maintenance responsibility include? Under 12878, that's costs associated with O&M and R&R arguably reimbursed by benefited properties. Maintenance areas, as I said, 9 of them. We have about 145 miles of maintenance areas in Butte, Colusa, Glenn, Lake, Sacramento, Sutter, and Yolo counties currently. That could change. So our budgeting process, by the 1st of April each year, DWR shall prepare and present to the board a package that includes the next fiscal year budget. Consistent with that, we've transmitted that package to the board effective March 29th, 2024. That's included in the board staff report, and that's our annual process. So And as Mr. Murphy will go through, each year, the budget proposal includes actual costs for the previously closed fiscal year, projections of costs for where we are in the current fiscal year, because we come to you in April, but the state budget process goes through June 30. So we have to give an estimate. That estimate's based on February expenditures and some projections forward to June 30, and our fiscal year proposal for the budget. So that's just a screenshot of the budget package, transmittal memo, explanation of what happens, summaries, individual maintenance area distribution of work, our totals, descriptions of the work, and then the public notice, which is an important piece. So noting the public notice requirements of the California Water Code 12878.29, DWR publishes in advance of this meeting at least twice a week for 2 successive weeks in newspapers associated with the areas where the maintenance areas exist. And these dates are when those publications happened. We have certification of publication that comes back to us, and we just make sure we're following that water code section specifically. Kind of layout of our maintenance areas. We have two maintenance yards in the flood maintenance and operations branch, one in Sacramento, West Sacramento yard, and then we have a yard in Sutter for the northern area. So this map shows maintenance area 4 and maintenance area 9. Maintenance area 9 protects urban and non-urban Sacramento County, including city of Sacramento in certain areas. Maintenance area 4 is West Sacramento, and it's the last piece of levee that's not maintained by the local reclamation district. This is the layout of maintenance area responsibilities for our Sutter maintenance yard. So maintenance area 1, 5, 7, 12, 13, 16, and 17 shown on the map are where our Sutter maintenance yard operates and maintains maintenance areas in those areas. And I'll note that both yards maintain 8361 state facilities as well. So where we do work in maintenance areas, it gets billed specifically to the maintenance area. Where we do work in 8361 areas, it gets billed to the state's general fund. So actions that DWR is taking and continues to take, our focus for our maintenance areas is in all areas that we can. We want to operate and maintain the system such that we have DWR and the residents protected in a position where if there is a federally declared disaster, we qualify for PL 8499. So that has been our status since about 2014, and we've made an effort. 8 of the 9 maintenance areas are active status in PL 8499 through the system-wide improvement framework process. I'll show that in a following table. Another action we're pursuing is Federal Endangered Species Act Section 7 coverage for certain areas that have federal endangered species. We are pursuing and have been pursuing for far too long a Federal Endangered Species Act biological opinion so that we can deal with rodent damage in areas. We're focusing currently on maintenance area 5, which is Butte Creek in Butte County. That maintenance area 5 pilot program is really focused on giant garter snakes. So there's habitat nearby the levees that overlap with, as has been mentioned in previous presentations, the footprint of other things, including our levee system. So we have difficulty with our preferred method of rodent damage repair in about half of our levee systems, MA5 being one of them, where we would like to fill rodent holes with grout, bottom to top, low pressure, so that we can eliminate holes. We don't want through-going holes in the levees where high water conditions might exacerbate a failure mode. So we are working through that. The other basic function we're trying to do is utilize the Corps' Corps of Engineers inspection checklist regularly. So I have staff who use the Corps inspections, and as you've seen, Emily Green presented today from the Corps, about 10 years apart, the Corps does inspections, maybe 5 in some cases, maybe more. So it's not really a good inspection to say, here's this thing that needs to be fixed. It's a categorical inspection that says this is a category of work that you need to address: rodent damage repair, encroachments, other things. So we also utilize our annual DWR levy inspection data, consume it, and turn it into actionable work items. So to address usage checklist items, the purpose of that is to maintain PL 8499 eligibility. This is a list of the 9 existing maintenance areas, and you can see 1, 4, 5, 7, 9, 12, and 13, as well as 16, all have PL 8499 active status in the rehabilitation program. So what that means is if there's a federally declared disaster, though those areas would be eligible for the Corps to come out, identify a core fix for damage, which we're working through in several of these areas from 2017, 2019, 2022, 2023 storm related actions, or we're doing those separately with our own. But you can see the systems, the color codes for the 561, MA 1 and 12 are the same core levee system, meaning they provide protection to the same basic area. MA4 is its own, MA5 is its own, MA9 is its own, and then the system 521, which is MA7 and 16, formerly MA3 was in that as well. That's the Feather River area, and those systems are together. MA17, which is Lake County, our system way out in Lake County. We share responsibility for levees in that area with the Lake County Flood Control and Water Conservation District. There's some indication they may be willing to pursue a system-wide improvement framework. We're more than happy to pursue that if they would like to. No entity can do that without their other partners proceeding on the same path. So what the core inspection checklist items include: encroachments, closure structures, erosion bank caving, animal control, culverts, discharge pipes, and seepage-related tow drains. Those are all rated items that would affect PL 8499 eligibility, and then they have non-rated items. They are important, but they won't affect PL 8499 eligibility. Vegetation control, sod cover, settlement, depressions, rutting, and so forth. We work to address all of those, but on a worst first basis, trying to make sure that we have the system working. At some point, those systems that are eligible under a letter of intent, we don't actually have any SWIFT, system-wide improvement framework, that's been approved by headquarters at the Corps. Hopefully that will happen at some point. When we have that, well, that will be our working path, but our working path currently is annually make sure that we're doing the things we're supposed to do and report them through the board to the Corps on a regular basis. So rated items include encroachments, and I'm going to show a table in a minute that is really items that the board staff will work through with encroachment management that I know you're aware of and have been trying to resource. There are many, many encroachments in the system, and worst first as well for these. We address concerns biannual maintenance under levee repair programs, and what we try and hit: slope stability, erosion bank caving, animal control, all things that can likely cause a failure to the levee itself. Culverts and discharge pipes, we've got as well, Emily Green from the Corps mentioned earlier, the DWR program. We have a deferred maintenance pipe program that is inspecting not just in maintenance areas, but everywhere with a video inspection team, currently on a 5-year cycle, trying to get all state plan of flood control drainage discharge pipes looked at, rated, and then addressed for corrective action if needed. So that's our DMP phase 1 and phase 2 inspection and corrective action. I'll show a table with that as well. Non-rated items, the annual maintenance program and levee repairs programs are really after vegetation control. We've got high hazard tree assessments we do throughout our area to balance the need for public safety and habitat in a particular area. And what we've done is work through with several partners through a process since 2007, really, to identify a high hazard tree assessment process and protocol. We've implemented it, and we're working through the process of what mitigation is necessary if you have to remove, let's say, a heritage oak that is in a position to fail a levee or some other feature. We deal with side cover, settlement, depressions and rutting, cracking, revetment, and seepage. Those are all details that we work through on our annual maintenance program. This is the list of encroachments for the 9 maintenance areas that we have, and it lists the last Corps inspection. I'll note maintenance area 7 and 16, we, on early April, we just received an updated 2022 inspection, so early April 2024. So there is a delay between when the inspection is done and when the maintainer receives the final version of it. But you can see the layout of minimally acceptable and unacceptable encroachments that the Corps has noted. Our inspectors might note things a little bit differently from DWR, but this is how we focus, and most of these in a prioritized list will come to the board with request for assistance. We also have our deferred maintenance pipe program, and this is locations where we've done surveys. What we call phase 1 is an assessment and evaluation. That includes an annual 5-year reinspection, interior video inspection. So we did geophysical surveys where a pipe couldn't be located. That was a one-time thing. We monitor those locations now. Every 5 years, we work through a process to get a camera in every pipe that is DWR responsibility for these areas, assess the condition, and continue. If we find problems, we work them into what we call phase 2. Phase 2 has two kind of approaches. The first one is to extend useful design life. That's for cast in place pipe lining is what we've chosen to do. We have a contractor will a resin balloon will get inflated inside, and that pipe will get another 30 to 50 years of life if it was in good enough condition. If it's not, it will be removed, replaced, properly abandoned. And so that program is continuing. Again, not just DWR areas. This program is being implemented throughout the state plan of flood control, Sacramento, San Joaquin, and Middle Creek. So at this point, I'm going to step back and let Brian Murphy give the board the cost projections for this year, as well as the proposed budget. And so Brian will step up and do that.
Thank you.
Still morning.
It is,
Morning,
yes.
Mr. Murphy.
President Dolan, members of the board, thank you. My name is Brian Murphy. And I'm going to go over some of the projected expenses for the proposed budget this year. So the combined fiscal year 23-24 projected budget expenses for the 9 maintenance areas are lower than the this year's budget, are lower than the fiscal year 23-24 budget approved by the Central Valley Flood Protection Board in April 2023. Yet some maintenance areas had costs above the approved budget. The overall projected costs of the 9 maintenance areas are around $3.5 million of the approved $3.7 million budget. And based on the costs through February and projected work and expenses through June 30th, the end of the fiscal year. Individual maintenance area expenditure and budgets costs may vary, with 4 maintenance areas having projected costs exceeding the approved budget, resulting from repeated high water events this year between December 2023 and March 2024. Those events triggered significant patrolling, flood fight operations, and emergency repair actions this season. So progressing forward here. So our overall budget package is approximately $4 million, and from the pie chart you can see the budget split for all of those areas. And maintenance area 9, as usual, takes a large piece of that pie at about $1.9 million. So I'm going to be going over each of the individual budgets for each of the maintenance areas. We have a cost breakdown with the actual cost with the budget year 22-23 in the first 2 columns, and the next 2 columns are this year's budget that are currently ongoing. So we have projected costs for the end of that. And then the 5th column at the end is going to be our proposed budget. And then far to the right, you can see a map of where that maintenance area is. And then the pie chart there displays the cost breakdown per job category. So for maintenance area 1, you can see that our proposed budget for this year is $415,130. And the expenditures for fiscal year 22-23 settled slightly higher than the budget due to repeated high water patrolling costs. And the project expenditures for fiscal year 23-24 are expected to settle slightly higher than the approved budget due to the repeated high water patrolling costs. The proposed budget for fiscal year 24-25 is higher than last year, and that is due to projected increased operational costs. Moving on to the next one. We have maintenance area 4, and this is in West Sacramento. And the proposed budget for this area is $169,000, and that's for 3.58 levy miles. And we can see here that the fiscal year 22-23 expenditures settled close to the approved budget, although patrolling costs were high due to repeated high water events. The projected expenditures for fiscal year 23-24 are expected to be lower than the approved budget due to no high water patrolling or repairs being needed. The total overall proposed budget for fiscal year 24-25 does require funding increase due to an increase in the patrolling budget and projected increased operational costs. This is the budget proposal for Maintenance Area 5, Butte Creek Levees and Little Chico Creek Channel. The proposed budget is $528,832 for 32.7 levy miles. And the expenditures for fiscal year 22-23 show high environmental support category costs due to development of the SWIFT work plan to address rodent damage repair planning for GGS habitat zones near the levees. The projected expenditures for fiscal year 23-24 are expected to be slightly lower than the approved budget. The proposed budget for fiscal year 24-25 is higher than last year, again due to projected increased operational costs. Proposed budget for Maintenance Area 7. This is the west levee of the Feather River below Oroville. And the proposed budget is 191,875 miles for 11.9 levy miles. And the fiscal year 22-23 costs settled slightly higher than the budget, but higher than budgeted due to higher than anticipated vegetation control, mowing, rodent control, and equipment costs. Although the Sacramento Valley experienced high water events in other areas, the Feather River has significant additional freeboard, which rarely triggers high water patrolling for the area, resulting in no actual patrolling costs in fiscal year 22-23 and no projected patrolling costs for the current 22-24 year. A nominal patrolling budget is included each year for contingency purposes. And you'll see that in this year's proposed budget. The proposed budget for fiscal year 24-25 is higher than last year, again, due to projected increased operational costs. Maintenance Area 9, East Levee of the Sacramento River in Sacramento, is a proposed budget of $1,880,000 or dollars, and that is for 19.5 levy miles. The fiscal year 22-23 expenditures were low due to the United States Army Corps of Engineer construction over several miles of the Maintenance Area 9 levees, and maintenance was not completed within those construction zones. Patrolling costs were higher due to repeated high water events, and the projected expenditures for fiscal year 23-24 are expected to settle lower than budgeted due to no required patrolling and few restoration and repair items. The total overall proposed budget for fiscal year 24-25 requires a small funding increase. A portion of the typical restoration repair budget has been shifted to rodent control and mowing. Those costs are higher due to traffic control on Highway 160 and new costs associated with cultural mitigation. Maintenance area 12 is the Calusa levee, the Calusa drain levee. And that is, our proposed budget for that is $161,575 for 11.4 levee miles. And the cost for fiscal year 22-23 settled slightly higher than budgeted due to high water patrolling and planned erosion and levee slip repairs. Mowing was not required in this area during fiscal year 22-23 due to very dry conditions and little vegetation growth. The projected expenditures for fiscal year 23-24 are expected to be slightly higher than the approved budget due to repeated high water patrolling and crown roadway repairs. The proposed budget for fiscal year 24-25 is higher than last year due to the projected increased operational costs. Maintenance area 13 are the Cherokee Canal levees. And our proposed budget for fiscal year 24-25 is $305,730. And that is for 40.1 levee miles. The cost for fiscal year 22-23 settled higher than budgeted due to repeated high water patrolling and erosion and levee slip repairs. Patrolling costs for fiscal year 22-23 and 23-24 are higher than the long-term average due to wet conditions and multiple high water patrol triggering events for this area for the past 2 years. The overall proposed budget for fiscal year 24-25 is higher than last year due to projected increased operational costs. Maintenance area 16 is the west levee of the Feather River near Live Oak. And our proposed budget for fiscal year 24-25 is $136,275. And that is for 4.1 levee miles. And the cost for fiscal year 22-23 settled just below the approved budget. Although the Sacramento Valley experienced high water events in other areas, the Feather River has significant freeboard again. So high water patrolling was not necessary in that area. The overall budget for fiscal year 24-25 is higher than last year due to the projected increased operational costs. And maintenance area 17, this is Middle Creek at Clear Lake. Our proposed budget for 24-25 is $210,358, and that is for 3.86 miles of levee. The patrolling costs for fiscal year 22-23 and the following year are higher than the long-term average, and that is due to wet conditions and multiple high water events for that area. Additionally, pumping plant emergency repairs have been identified, and some work is planned for the current fiscal year. These emergency response requirements have resulted in higher than budgeted overall expenditures for fiscal year 22-23 and 23-24 conditions. No burning or dragging has been needed, and no rodent damage has been identified or costs incurred for this area over the past several years. The proposed budget for fiscal year 24-25 is higher than last year due to an increase in operational costs and planned repairs for the pumping plant. So you can see here, this is the combined maintenance area budget cost by percentage and job category. So the pie chart shows each of those categories for work. A lot of that is vegetation control. And so we ask at this point that for a board action for the flood protection, Central Valley Flood Protection Board to adopt the fiscal year 24-25 maintenance area budgets and to fix the amount of the estimate as presented pursuant to California Water Code 12878. Thank you.
I was making noise before, so I turned that off. So that was certainly comprehensive. So thank you, gentlemen. Board member questions? Audience, anyone want to prolong this online?
We know Mr. Countryman would like to make a comment, but he's not.
Well, then he'll just have to come back from Portugal. I'm sure he'll contact you. Maybe some landowners in the Cherokee area. They like you so much. All right, the action requested is to approve. It says that somewhere. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the budget, the recommended action.
Motion by member Griego to approve the recommended action. Second by Johnson, because Mr. Belize is busy, and the president's not going to do it. Okay, please call the roll. There's a comment? I don't know what this means.
To call for public comment.
I did. I said board members, audience, online,
That's it. Thank you.
and then the motion. You're expecting I would have a motion and then do that? Either way is appropriate. You didn't hear me? It's okay, you can do this. Okay. Please call the roll.
Member Bosler is absent. Member Countryman is absent. Member Griego.
Yes.
Secretary Johnson.
Aye.
Vice President Belines.
Aye.
President Dolan.
Yes. That makes me want to say the vote is tied, but that's not correct. The yes and the ayes are tied. The motion to approve the budget is approved with the 4 votes that are necessary, and they were provided.
Just
2 are
by
absent, 1 is a vacancy. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very
both.
much.
Wait, that's a noisy little mic there when I just touch it. Okay, item number 11, we have written updates of our staff reports. The administrative division, that always is the night before. Operations branch, flood system improvement branch. Next session will be the flood system improvement branch, actually giving a presentation at the podium. Environmental services, land management division, floodplain programs branch. Now does not have its leader because we took her, but there'll be something that will occur. Okay, anyone want to pull or have questions? I'm sure the operation branch missed the monthly emails from board member Countryman. He'll probably make that up when he returns. Anyone in the audience want to bring one forward and talk about it? Do I see any branch or division folks just ready to get up and talk? No. Anyone online? Okay, move on. Board comments, upcoming committee updates, board comments. Member Johnson, Member Griego, Member Vines. President Dolan attended with the executive officer the Delta Plan Interagency Implementation Committee. They just call themselves DPIC. Not a lot of action goes on there, but it was a very intense day. It was in Stockton. We toured some local community efforts to address inadequacies for low-income community, one of which their whole community disappeared when I-5 was constructed, not unlike what's happened in many other communities, including the city that we're sitting in today. I also attended the State Water Resources Control Board hearing on the probation recommendation for GSAs in the San Joaquin Valley and made comments about the impact of subsidence on flood control structures that protect lives, number one, and structures, and spoke to perhaps enhanced cooperation in expanding the designated floodway program for identifying where floodwaters can go and also be a benefit to actions toward recharge. I just said that a lot better right now than I did there. But I'm sure there'll be other hearings. And then Tuesday of this week with our executive officer, with deputy officer. Many of our chief engineer, our attorney, many other people, lots of DWR people there, lots of local folks. The United States Army Corps of Engineers had what they called the Sacramento Area Flood Protection Showcase. So our colonel, the division out of San Francisco spoke. I'm forgetting what his title is, the one who is like the civilian match to the military, assistant secretary for the Army, who doesn't wear the camo, but the colonels do. Congress member Doris Matsui and DWR. So I got to participate in holding the shovel and doing a little bit of dirt. So I started the construction with 8 other people. So it was that. No, it was, yeah, no, these things are very important to show and to demonstrate that actions are occurring and that they are innovative and that they're expanding the system and that they're making change. And it was really windy. So other than that, I talked to our call executive officer every day. I was going to give him a day off, but it didn't work. So we're there. What's coming up next? I want to remind you all that the board meeting in May is 17th. It's a week earlier than what is normal. And the reason for that is to avoid having it the Friday of Memorial weekend because some of us are doing family events that whole weekend. So we're also not having a workshop in May. So the board meeting is Friday, May 17th. Coordinating committee is set for Tuesday, May 28th. And it looks like a venue change. West Sacramento room that we've been using, they're going to replace the floor, so they don't want us there. So it looks like we're going across the street to the West Sacramento Library Theater. That's a maybe, but it's the committee's going to meet. We'll just figure out where in West Sac. Board workshop on June 14th and board meeting on June 28th in this room for both of those. Anything, and no closed session today. We were hoping to have one, but 4 members would not be appropriate for the subject matter. So we'll do that at our next meeting. Anything else for the good of the order? Member Grego.
Yeah, I failed to mention, I just want to say thank you to Chris Leaf and Andrea Buckley for coming out to Yuba County and spending part of the day there at the request of Supervisor Mishner in regards to a project, and then also meeting with some of the county staff as well on potential future projects. And so it was a good day, you know, to go out to Yuba County and take a look at some of the progress that's going on out there. I'd just like to publicly thank them for that. Of course, we started at Duke's Dining. Of course we did.
Good to see that. Yeah, I'm a little jealous of those of you who got to go to the diner, but I can do that whenever I want as well. So anything else for the good of the order? I see none. I hear none. We're adjourned.